Good evening and welcome to Yahowah Radio. It's my pleasure to be with you. We have a one-winger here, but two legs, as I understand it now. How are you, JB?
I'm doing a lot better. Get better every day, so that's all I can ask for.
So with the boot, you're able to walk? You're able to go to work now?
Not working yet. I can walk in short bursts, 10, 20 minutes tops usually, so kind of waiting to get a little more of that under me. And it's more of a hobble than a walk right now, so waiting to get a little more of that under me and I'm a little more stable before I try going back to work. Hopefully when I see the doctor on the 3rd, we'll start taking the boot off and walking, putting actual weight on the leg. Well, not, it's already putting weight on the leg, but, without the support. And then it's just a matter of building the muscle back up.
Okay. How are you, Larry?
Oh, fine.
Got no complaints, huh? You had a good week?
Well, it won't do me any good to complain, pal. Yeah, I had a good week. We do have a question from Cherie before you start. So
okay, all right. Then we just welcome Kirk. Long time no talk.
Hi, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. In fact, I was going to, if I start with you, I was going to go over the same material we went over in Chattering Myths today, just go over it in more detail, because it's the one thing that we get probably more than anything else from the know-it-all Christians, that when you're telling them specifically when these things are going to happen, they always pull this one statement out of context. I thought that reinforcing it would be good for all of us. I know that when I reinforce things, it helps cement them in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So
that said, what is the question from Cherie?
Well, you have basically in Yahowah, when you're given the Mikre breakdown, and I think I know the answer to this, I'm pretty sure, you always have to correct the calendar. But I think you do a calendar correction in 2016 in Yahowah. Would that be correct?
I do a calendar all the way through 2033. It's a collaborative effort with myself and Yoel. Yoel did a lot more work on it than I did.
Well, he's a lot smarter than you are, so I feel
good
about that.
That is good, and by the way, I'm happy to agree with you. And
I'm just
he
kidding.
programmed. What he did is he took the NASA data and he programmed it. Now, Yoel is I would say Yoel is more of a dogmatic thinker than I am. I mean, as you know, when somebody says, can you give me the date, and my preference is to say, no, I shouldn't give you the date. I can tell you the date that I'm going to celebrate it, but that takes all of the thinking away from you. You should really listen to what Yahweh has to say about the timing and come to your own conclusion. And so even if we disagree by a day or two, that's still better than if I just give you the date. Well, what Yoel did is that since there is no statement that says, because 2016 has come up and I've had now 4 or 5 questions on 2016 because it provides 2 entirely different dates a month apart.
Yes, absolutely. That's the question. I'm assuming he's correcting the calendar.
Right. So what I wanted to convey is a complete answer to that question, if you don't mind. And the complete answer is that there's no place that says that Abib is the renewing light on the moon closest to the spring equinox. It doesn't say that. What it does is say that it's the renewing light on the moon, so the new-ish moon. It's not new in the sense of no light as we would use the term new moon, but a renewed moon, first sliver of the moon, during Abib. And so Abib is the time, as we all know. Abib actually means green barley. It's when the barley is present in the year, still green and growing. And since barley is the first grain to sprout, and it's also announced as the time that the flax flowers, which also happens in the spring, very close to the spring equinox, right at the beginning of spring, if you will, that these 2 things occur right around the vernal equinox. And they have throughout history. And so that is since we're not growing the same variety of barley in the same place with the same weather patterns, we have to make some assumptions to correlate a calendar today to the calendar that Yahweh conveyed to the Israelites. So you've got to think through this. He says it was during Abib, the barley, so that's going to be the first sliver that is at the same time that barley begins to show a kernel in the head of the grass crop and the grain crop. So what a number of people have done, to be really literalists, is they've taken a plot of land in Israel and they've grown barley. Now, to do that, you need to understand that you don't have the same weather conditions. I mean, Israel is much drier than it was back then. And we have so much archaeological and scientific evidence that it was much different, much wetter, more mild than it is today. Second, we have genetically altered barley, as we have all grain crops. If we didn't, the grain would cease to exist. And every year is slightly different. And so to be a literalist and say I want to go to Israel and grow barley so I'll know the time, I'm not sure is the right approach either. I think the right approach is to realize that this is about the time that happens, so choose the renewing light on the moon closest to the vernal equinox. Now, that's all well and good with exception, because it's really easy to identify the one, with exception of years where it is, because the moon phase is 29.5 days. So you could have it be 14 days 14 to 15 days on one side and 14 to 15 days on the other side. So if you have a situation like that, then what Yoel wanted to do by providing two, when you have that kind of a situation where it could be one or the other, rather than determining which one it was, since there's no express instructions on that, he wanted to provide the information and let the thinker decide.
Okay, so I was wrong. I thought it would be a calendar jump. You know how you have to readjust a calendar from time to time. But I guess since we're using more of a vernal equinox than a moon, you don't really have to do that.
Yeah, no, you don't have to do that. You add an intercalendar month one every 2 to 3 years, and that takes care of the timing so that you get a first sliver that's closest to the vernal equinox. But there are years, not many of them, but there are years where where you will have the first crescent can be 15 days on one side or the other, so that it's right there in the middle, and you go, okay, which one is it? And so that's the reason why there are probably, for that whole period of time when we started this, 15 years ago, to the time going forward to 2033, 18 years from now, there's probably 5 years in that period, which is like 2016. Now, I personally have not, because Pesach is a ways off, I have not gone into that chapter to analyze it, but I just arrived back in Charlottesville this evening. Broadcast Saturday Miss from Ohio, here in Virginia this evening. And so my plan was that I was going to have lunch with my friend Yoel on Monday. And on Monday, I was going to invite him up to my old carriage house here and walk through it with him, and just be kind of a fun thing to do together. To see, okay?
Really?
Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on that wall.
Pardon?
I said I'd love to be a fly on that wall.
Oh, Yoel is one of my very favorite people to talk to because he's so intuitive. He's really brilliant, and he's ethnically Jewish, and yet he was raised a Roman Catholic, and gave up on the Roman Catholic Church when he was about 10 years old because the priests either wouldn't answer his questions or gave really disconcerting answers to his questions. And because of the ridiculousness of their answers, he left the Roman Catholic Church, but knew he was Jewish and was an atheist, and then just said, you know, it's way too much work being an atheist. I just don't have that much time. And so he said he became an agnostic, and then, you know, we would spend time from, you know, late afternoon to 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning talking about who Yahweh really is, what he said, what he invited, what he planned, what he's asking, what he wants, you know, and as we were just beginning to learn all of this. And so once it registered with him and said, wow, so my arguments against God are really arguments against religion, and God has the same arguments against religion that I do. And God makes total sense. The God that I rejected isn't the real God. I rejected the religious God. And so it is fun to talk with Yoel. It's one of my favorite pastimes. He is, by the way, a resolute Shabbat observer. You know, he works for Dell, and they could have the most important meeting with the most important client on a Shabbat, and he isn't attending. And if it's one of the Shabbaton of the Moed Mikre, he's not attending. And one of the things interesting is that the more resolute he got about observing the Shabbat, the more comfortable his family nest egg became. So, you know, it was one of those, I wouldn't say it would work that way for everyone, but he was living literally hand-to-mouth, week to week, and then became resolute about, you know, I'm a programmer, but I'm only going to work when Yahweh said I should, and I'm going to observe the Shabbat, and I'm just going to do the right thing for my family, and I'm going to trust that things are going to turn out fine, and they turned out better than fine for him. So, good example. All right. That said, I want to return to and finish our consideration of Zechariah 13 and 14, because I'm convinced that the text that we've been given from Mark and from Matthew of no one knows the hour, not even the Son, is completely errant, and that there is no logical basis for it, and that the evidence is almost overwhelming in favor of the fact that Yosha was citing Zechariah, and that he told us exactly the time that he was going to return, because the exact time is provided for us in Zechariah. And since, I don't know about you guys, I can just tell you that when I tell people that the tribulation is going to begin in the fall of 2026, and that Yosha is going to return on, actually Yahweh is going to return, on the day of reconciliations in the year 6000 Yah, which just happens to be sundown on October 2nd of 2033, this is the lame excuse I always get back, is that, well, no one knows the hour. And just go, okay.
Everyone uses that, yeah.
Yeah, everyone uses that. So I thought it would be important to have fresh within all of our minds how you would address that. Because, you know, the first line of defense is, you mean to tell me that God, Yahweh, took what is equivalent to 4 times your New Testament in length, maybe 5 times, and he laid out the entire history of the world. You know, in the creation account, he gave us the history of humankind, 7,000 years of it. And he was detailed about when each of these individuals that he was listed in Genesis was born, when they conceived, when they died. And then he goes on and provides a plan that is specific to certain days of the year, certain days of the week, certain days of the year, certain years within centuries. And he's very specific about what these days represent and when these days are going to occur. And then he provides a prophetic testimony that emphasizes the seminal events in human history. And in one book, Daniel, he gives you a history of the world from 500 BCE to 2033 CE. He gives you a 2,500 history of the world, of who the powers are going to be, when they're going to rise, when they're going to fall, who they're going to actually be, where they're going to come from, what their characteristics are going to be, and what the byproduct would be, including when you get to the last days and you're dealing with the last 7 years, him giving you just exquisite detail as to where the Torahless one is going to come from, with whom he's going to make alliances, what his character is going to be like, and what he is going to do over each of those 7 years. And then he has prophet after prophet where he tells you the day he's going to come back, what part of Jerusalem he's going to come back to, what he's going to look like when he comes back, and what he's going to do immediately before and after he comes back. And then you want to tell me that with all of that information, he just said, well, you're really stupid. So why don't you just ignore it all? Because no one knows. I don't even know. And when you go through that, if somebody isn't saying, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't just throw one line, consider one line out of context of a book that has tens of thousands of lines in it. And then the next thing I would say is, all right, you're getting that line, no one knows the time. What is that from? And most people just don't know, but it's from the Olivet Discourse. And so I would say, so what is the Olivet Discourse about? Isn't the Olivet Discourse an answer to a singular question? When are you going to come get us? Mm-hmm. When are you coming back? Isn't that the entire Olivet Discourse, beginning to end? You know, when are you coming to get us? When are you coming back? And does he say, pizza, Torah? I haven't got a clue.
He could have answered it a lot quicker if the Christian response is correct.
That is correct. He would just would have said, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't even know why I'm on this stupid Mount of Olives. What am I doing here? Why should we even care that tomorrow I'm going to be the Passover lamb? You know, why do you even care that at night I told you that I'm the Passover lamb? I mean, let's just forget about all these dates. It's just way too intense on dates. Let's forget about the fact this is year 4,000. Yeah. Let's just say the truth. I'm clueless. I'm a fraud. Wouldn't that have been his answer if he didn't know?
Yeah.
But you know what he does? He spends what is in typical English Bibles, it's 2 entire pages before he answers the question. 2 entire pages. And in those answers, he says, here are the things that are going to happen. He says, between now and then, there's going to be people that are going to acknowledge that I'm the Christ, but they're going to mislead many. Whew. Wow. That would be all of Christianity, right? We're starting with Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then he goes to what are the major things that are going to happen in the last days as birth pangs. You know, we're witnessing one of the most tragic ones today. The most massive hurricane ever recorded is hitting the coast of Mexico. And he delineates the onslaught of terrorism. It's never been as bad as it is today. The world at war. Oh, boy, the world. I mean, not only is the world at war now, but it's inevitable that it's going to be far worse. And, you know, he goes on talking about famine and pestilence and increase in seismos, the moving to and fro, the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the earthquakes. And so he goes through this whole diatribe of what's going to happen, mass starvation, pestilence. We've not had mass starvation yet. We've not had worldwide pestilence yet. We're going to have those things. He even talks about the sun itself is going to scorch people with intense heat. And he talks about that the healing nature of his message is going to be communicated to the world. That wasn't possible until 2 things happened. One is the tools were made available to study the oldest manuscripts in Hebrew. Until a number of us decided, let's study them and see what God really has to say. And then 3, we had a platform, the internet, to do this. And so you put it all together, and you're dealing with with him giving you a deliberate time schedule, and then he even says that Israel is going to become a nation again. Now, if he didn't know when he was going to return, how could he provide all of that information and say all that's going to occur before my return, and not just say it's all going to occur before my return? He said the generation that witnesses all of this shall not pass away before my return.
Right, but he also
so how is
says,
it possible that he could not know the time when you read that in context?
Yeah, then you've got Hosea, who tells us that 2 days is 2,000 years, basically. On the third day,
he says 1 day is like 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 years. Then he says on the second day.
Yeah. Well, on the third day, he'll be with us, and so of course that's year 6,000 right there.
Yeah, 2,000. Yeah, the second day there'll be the healing, and then the third day he'll be with us. So yeah, that's year 2,000.
You're asking somebody that doesn't even know what a yobel is to count a yobel, even though it takes 2 minutes to explain. You know, they're like everything else. They're swallowed up in their Bible, which is damnation, by the way. That's why Yahweh tells us not to read their material, right?
I mean, how in the world could Yosha have fulfilled the first 4 Mikre in year 4,000 4,000 years from the time that Adam and Chava were kicked out of the garden, with exactly the halfway mark between those things being the confirmation in exactly the same place with the covenant with Abraham, Yishak, Yahweh, and Abraham, Yishak, Yahweh, and Yosha.
Covenant with Yahweh. Yahweh established the covenant with them exactly
at the halfway mark.
40
year
Yobel earlier.
Right. Yeah, exactly the halfway mark, 40 Yobel earlier to year 4,000 And that's when the first 4 Moed Mikre were fulfilled on the right day in the right order. And you're going to tell me that you can't follow that pattern and come up with what's 2,000 years or 40 Yobel or what's the next event from 33 CE? What happens when you add 2,000 years to 33 CE, and what you come up with?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, can you add 2,000 to 33 CE? Boom. Now let me show you. Yahweh fulfills each of the Moed Mikra. They're not a game. That's why he said, I'm the one that's going to provide the lamb. So what the uplifting of lambs, that's mine. Wow. I don't know. You're talking about people that are defending religions as opposed to thinking. And this is an ongoing problem with the world. But for those that really want to see the truth, it is perfect. It's actually one of the confirmations. And by the way, you left out Zechariah, which I don't know how in the world in 502 BCE Zechariah says in this final battle, on this day of reconciliations, the day that the 2033, on October 2nd, he's talking about fast-flying war machines with drivers in them. I dare say there is not even a hope. There is no hope that you could predict that and the exact and only time it could be used in human history, within a generation anyway. Unless you want to go all the way back to World War I, and those were just overhead Tommy gun fights more than anything. Yeah. But today a jet is a major part of any war attack. So
it is indeed. So here's how Zechariah, speaking of Zechariah, begins 13:1, and we'll go all the way through the end of it here today. The world's people and nation shall mourn, families by themselves, the house of Dod by themselves, the families of the house of Nathan by themselves. And so what God is saying is this is a very isolating time. We're all going to be isolated. It's going to be, as we talked on Shattering Mystery, the time of anarchy. Everyone is isolated, and the only thing that they can possibly do is just try to survive as families. So everyone and every nation, everyone is going to be trying just to survive, and it'll be a time of great mourning. But he says, I'm going to pour out upon the Most High's household, family, of Dod, and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of acceptance, who pleads for favor. Now, this is really straightforward when you realize that Jerusalem is the heart of Yahweh, and the Dod kingdom is based upon Jerusalem, was in Jerusalem over Yahweh, and it was a united Israel at that time, and so he's pouring out his spirit of acceptance in the place where Jerusalem means, the source from which acceptance, reconciliation flows. So all he's doing here is acknowledging what he has said he's going to do. So the whole world is mourning. Everybody is isolated. But on this one place, for this, the household of Dod, which would be the covenant, the kingdom of Yahweh, he's going to pour out the spirit of acceptance. Now, which pleads for favor, for forgiveness. And the hardest thing here for a Christian would be, this is not the house of Paul.
No.
This is not even the house of Jesus.
No, that would be
Dod
Jesuit.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be the house of Jesus. Yeah, the Dod represents the Torah. He represents Yahweh. He's the only king Yahweh acknowledges. He's the one. If you're going to reestablish the kingdom of Dod, you sure as hell don't have any interest in a New Testament, a New Covenant, or a church. And so if you're a Christian, that statement is deadly for you. If you love Dod, which we do, not because of Dod's behavior, but because of Dod's instructions on how to observe the Torah, then, you're, and the fact that Yahweh used this flawed individual to demonstrate the benefits of observing the Torah, then this is welcome news. So Yahweh's going to honor his promise to the children of Yisrael, to the kingdom of the household of Dod, which would be the entire kingdom of Yisrael, through Jerusalem, the spirit of acceptance that pleads for favor. On that day, by the way, what is the day of acceptance? What is the day of pleading for favor? What is the day of reconciliation?
Yom Kippur.
Oh, well, the day of reconciliation. Yeah, Yom Kippur. That's right. So on that day, not just any day, on that day there shall be a source opened for the household of Dod and the inhabitants of Jerusalem concerning the offer to purify and cleanse sin and corruption. So there's, Yisrael, Yahweh, has rebelled against Yahweh. Now, they're going to have the whole world against them at this time, but Yahweh is going to say, you've been stubborn and isolated and estranged, but now is the time. I'm going to make it easy for you. And, I'm not going to speak for all of us. I think that Yahweh does play favorites, and there are those that he knows are going to ultimately choose him, and he facilitates our access. He pours out a spirit that facilitates our access. His right to do so. We are all, or at least most of us, are beneficiaries of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to do it I know for certain he's going to do it for the children of Yisrael in the last days. Not only in this case his privilege to be able to do it. In this case he has no choice, but has to do it. Why do you think he has to do it? He didn't have to do it for us. Yeah, the promise he made to Abraham. So he has to do it. He's going to do, but it's not like he has to do it. He wants to do it. He wants to do it. That's who he is. He wants to do it. And it shall come to exist on that day. Now, we have three references now. That day, that day, that day. Not any day. Not you're too stupid to know what day. On that day, on the day
And we're going to get to the minute of that day.
Yes, we are.
I want to throw that in there, you know.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to take us right to the minute on that day. And then it shall come to exist on that day, declares Yahweh, of the assembled regime of spiritual messengers, the names of the idols made of the substance of the earth will be cut off, recalled and proclaimed no longer. Oh, boy, am I ever happy for that day. Yeah. No more lords. No more Allahs.
No more church.
No more church. No more
Bible.
No more Bible. Yep. Yeah. Bibles are gone. Church buildings are gone. Yep. No more. Yeah.
No holy days. No holy days. No holy days.
No Christmas, no Easter, no Eucharist. No popes, no priests, no nothing. It's all gone, and no religious site at all. And what he says here first, what he says here first is that their names are the things that he wants to get rid of first. So at this very moment, I don't think he gets rid of the sites themselves until the 5 days between Yom Kippurim and Sukkah. But the first thing he wants to do, and particularly in Israel, amongst his children, because he's focused right now on Israel. He's not focused on the rest of the world. There may not even be a rest of the world to focus on. This is not already destroyed. But he's focused on Israel and Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, you are at this point, the Dome of the Hooky Prince and Oscar Mosque, gone. Now, that is for sure. There isn't a single Muslim at this moment in Jerusalem that's going to be able to say Allahu Akbar.
Even if the UN group votes against it, huh?
Yeah, they're going to be gone, too.
Yeah, they're going to be gone, too. Yeah, I was telling Kirk today that it was just so amazing. And Kirk, if you want to know why I had a little different approach this morning, is that we're in the waning days of shattering myths. I don't know if I'm going to do it for another week or for another month, but it's somewhere between a week and a month, and I'm going to retire from shattering myths. I've said this before, but I extended my stay after it became uncomfortable to be there. The advertising is just driving me crazy there, and their inability to syndicate the show. So, if I'm going to do a show without syndication, why have all those ads? And particularly when the ads are so repulsive. And I'm only there because of my brother Scott. I just dearly love Scott, and we've become very good friends. And I told Scott, Scott turned down a very high-paying job to stay there because he thought what we were doing was important and he enjoyed it. And so I said, well, then I had wanted to retire from it, but I'm going to stay if you stay. And Scott decided this week that he's going to solicit other job opportunities. And for reasons of details we don't need to get into, but basically he's underpaid and underappreciated at GCN. And once he is gainfully employed elsewhere, I will no longer do shattering this, and we'll figure out. There's lots of ways to communicate. I'm looking forward just to getting back into more time writing, studying, translating, and writing and adding to the books. But beyond that, there's also the opportunity to either expand on BTR or do a pre-recorded Shattering Myths program where all of us can contribute. We just do it and pre-record it together at a time mutually acceptable to all of us. And but anyway, that's what I was.
Shame for the world out there listening.
Well,
I know.
We've said it every possible way, and we have Richard with such a wonderful site that presents the archives of it. We are going over the same material. And we've told people everything that we possibly can as to what's going to happen and why, and too few people are listening and seem to care about what God has to say.
Yeah.
But here we are. The names of all of the false gods are going to cease to be. Moreover, I will quickly distance and destroy from the world the prophets and the intoxicating uncleanliness and infidelity. That means that at that moment, and this is for the Eretz can be the land or the world. you choose. I think that in this case, it's from the land of Israel, there will be no prophets. Because I think 100% of those that claim to speak for God today do not. I would say it's 100%. And I say that including myself, because I don't claim to speak for God.
No, we just
all I claim is, all I'm claiming to do here is, to the best of my ability, to translate into a language that we all understand what God said, and then to share insights based upon what He said in terms of my conclusions, our thoughts on what He said. That's not speaking for God. That's not me claiming that God gave me this private revelation, and this is what I heard in my head, and I'm going to go now speak for Him because this is what He told. No, we're translating what He made available to all of us. He spoke to all humanity for all time, and through His prophets, and we're simply conveying what He said. So we're not claiming to be a prophet.
No.
No, we're claiming to share Yahweh's words, which are important. That's our claim. Yahweh's words are important.
Yes.
That's
and they're
it.
truthful. They're reliable.
Yeah, and they're honest.
They're important, they're truthful, they're reliable, they're knowable. And that's all we can. No other person's testimony has any merit. And if anybody says anything that's contrary to what Yahweh says, they're wrong. Those are the claims that we'll make. So here he is saying that anybody who claims to be speaking for him at this moment, gone. There's nothing here than the ultimate beast, Rome and its Pope, which claims to speak for God. The Pope and all of us, the throngs of millions around the world that worship him, that's all gone.
That's astounding. That's astounding. How could anyone even read a basic English Bible and end up worshiping a Pope or following one? I don't even get that. I don't even get that.
Yeah, particularly when the guy
anywhere.
He claims that he is the vizier of Christ, and yet in their own book he says, don't call anybody father.
Yeah,
he claims to be the Holy Father.
Yeah, and they call every one of these bastards father, don't they?
Oh yeah, he's the Holy Father, and all of the priests are fathers.
He's the head papa.
Yeah, he's the head papa, which, by the way, is a Roman term. Caligula was a pope, for crying out loud. So was Nero. So was Julius Caesar. So was Augustus. They're all popes.
All of them.
Yeah, Hadrian, the most hideous man who ever lived. He's a pope.
What a disgusting group of humanity that was.
Oh yeah. You're associated with Rome, all right. So anyone who claims to be a prophet, Yahweh is saying three things. One, he's going to distance and destroy them from the world. He could be saying, I'm distancing and destroying them from the land so that they have no influence in Israel. What they want to say amongst the Goyim, he doesn't give a crap. Doesn't really care. Going to hold them accountable, but that's their business. But certainly in the land, there will be no false prophets. No prophets at all. Period. Why does Yahweh need a prophet? He told us everything is going to happen. When it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, why it's going to happen. What more is there to tell us? All these people can't believe that God wouldn't have a prophet since 500 or 400 BCE, and that he's going to go 2,400 years without a single prophet. But the world's changed. I mean, he's got to have a lot to say.
The world's changed.
Everything.
I love that. Wow.
He did have a lot to say.
Can I add something here? Every prophet there is a sophist, as I was talking about, last week. I mean, they operate using Sophia, or Sophia, rather. And that's what it's all about. I mean, tell me one thing. I mean, you show me one thing that any of these prophets, Pat Robertson, Hagee, any of these clowns, any of them, Show me one thing they say that's instructive towards the covenant, because I have never seen one do it. Never.
The moment you say Jesus or Christ or Lord, or go to a church or speak of Sundays or Trinities, you quote Paul, anytime you do any of that, you're automatically disqualified. And what is if you want to be a prophet, let's just say that you want to sign up for that job, and you claim that Yahweh accepted your initiation, that he was really looking forward to having a prophet, and that he had more to say, even though people don't pay any attention to what he already said. But he had more to say to people who wouldn't even bother to read what he's already said, and that he really wanted a prophet, and that he accepted Haggai as a prophet. And Haggai writes a book called The Four Blood Moons and said that's the hand of God, and something powerful is going to happen to Israel with these four blood moons. And you got it wrong. What's the consequence?
No kidding. You know what? We in Unpopular Truth had actually put a group together, and we all went on to rented a bus, and we all went to Texas and bought boots so we could quake in them. And then nothing happened. It was very sad. It was a letdown because we were counting on it.
What is Yahweh's indication for Haggai when he claimed that this was a prophecy from God and he got it wrong?
That makes him a liar.
Right.
Period.
But if you're a liar regarding speaking for God on prophecy, you only get one chance to be wrong. There's no forgiveness.
No. That's right.
Yeah. So you got to be really careful about
that. Only to gather up a big old bag of rocks and go down to Haggai's church.
Yeah. Now somebody may be saying here that you're predicting that he's going to return on Yom Kippur in 2033. No, I'm not. I'm not predicting that at all. No. Yahweh's given us the date. I'm simply conveying the date that he gave us. Like he gave us the date of Yom Kippurim in year 6,000 Yah. I did the math to convert it. Not hard to do.
If you're supposed to add up the days to figure out when Passover is, why is it wrong to add up the days when all these events will happen? I mean, that's the whole thing, is to figure it all out, put it all together.
Yeah, that's they call that a rhetorical question, don't they, Kirk?
Yeah. I mean,
by the way, that's one of the things that tells us this lunar Shabbat is insanity, because it throws the whole Yovel off. It throws timing off.
Yeah.
Timing is ingrained in Yahweh's words. Ingrained. I've come to figure that much out. So I just don't understand why people think they can change.
Yahweh, well, he is infinite in time. He is not timeless. That's the English concept of, you're not stuck in time, you're not limited by time, it's timeless, but the English word there is the opposite of what's true. He's rather than without time, he is all time. And because he is all time, he can choose to view time just as an irrelevant thing, because he can be in the past, the present, future simultaneously. So for him, if he wanted to, he could view time as irrelevant. But if he can view time as irrelevant, why does he have a 6 + 1 creation account followed by a 6 + 1 celebration that he says is his pattern that he wants us to follow forever? Why did he establish the Shabbat? Why did he establish 7 Moed Mikre? Why did he give us the timing of those Mikre? Why would he give us the Yobel of every 50 years? Why provide any of this, as you say, if timing was irrelevant? Why?
Or a 7th day of rest, which is a foreshadowing of Sukkah. I mean,
of course.
We could stamp that on our foreheads, couldn't we?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, really? So I think there's people out there that do Shabbat that don't even know what it is about. They don't know it's a foreshadowing of Sukkah. I don't understand it.
Right. Yeah, the Shabbat exists to foreshadow, to be a prototype of Yahweh's plan. And his plan is 6,000 years of humankind outside of the garden, and we spend 1,000 years with him back in the garden. That there's 7 Moed Mikre that lead us back into the garden, with Sukkah camping out with him in the garden. The purpose of the Shabbat is to embody Yahweh's promise, and Yahweh's promise is based upon the flow of time. So the second thing that it says is not only are there not going to be any prophets in the land, but that prophets intoxicate, that they're arrogant, that they're repulsive, and that they by intoxicating, back in the day there was beer and wine. Beer and wine was the very source of civilization, killing little, the bacteria in the water, but too much of it, and your judgment was impaired. So he's saying that religious people impair judgment, and that's why he doesn't like them, and that the spirit from which they speak is unclean, the spirit from which they speak is in religious rebellion against him. So it's all those references to Paul and intoxication associated with Paul. He's explaining that. It's an unclean spirit. It's the spirit of Hasatan, immoral. Indeed, it shall come to pass that anyone who speaks as a prophet, again, his father and mother will say to that child they bore, you shall not live, for indeed you speak lies in the name of Yahweh, and his father and mother who bore him shall pierce him when he prophesies. Now, that does not say, and be careful here, that does not say that the mother and father are going to kill their own son. It just says that that son is not going to live, because what is the consequence of prophesying for God when you, in fact, did not give you that inspiration? You're going to die.
At minimum, it's death.
Is that what Yahweh said is
minimum.
true?
Right. Yeah, but that's
so what Yahweh said is true. That means that that son is not going to live because of what they did, because Yahweh is consistent. He doesn't change. So they're not going to live. And then they said they're going to pierce him. They didn't say they're going to kill him. They're going to pierce him. We use the term today, when you pierce an argument. You pierced through the argument that the person was making. That's how you expose and condemn.
You puncture it.
Right. You puncture it. You puncture their trial balloon. You puncture their theory.
I always read that as they would kill him themselves, knowing how.
I don't think so.
You got to remember after this. Well, and you may be right. I mean, you may well be right there. I always took it the other way. I never considered the other.
They wouldn't even have to, because if you're lying around God at that stage, you can't.
You don't have to.
You can disintegrate almost right after you said it.
Right. It's important, though, that I used to think it was the same thing you did. I've migrated on. By the way, is that on a 1 to 10 scale of importance, this is a 1. But I just think it's better reflection of who Yahweh is and what He wants. Is that one of the real problems today is there's no accountability. We don't hold religions or institutions or people accountable. And so the parents are going to be accountable. The parents are going to hold their son accountable. I think that's what Yahweh wants is you still have free speech, you still have free choice in eternity, but the parents are going to say what our son said is going to cause our son to die. That's how wrong it is. And then they're going to pierce the argument that the son made so that others are not misled by it. They're going to be accountable. And I think
that would make sense. I mean, I'm not looking at, some kind of a religious, ritualistic slaying or something like that. Right. I was thinking more along the lines that, the tribulation story, the evil calamity, as Yah calls it, is so awful. Yes. I mean, so many people die. Yes. Because of falsehoods. I mean, that's what it is, because of poor choices and lies.
Yes.
And, parents are going to realize how dangerous that is at that point. That was my thinking, just as a matter of what can really happen when lies get out of hand, especially people that claim to speak for God that don't,
Larry, this week and Yahweh this week, us just talking about this so much since last Friday. It's become so real, and it's not like it wasn't real before, but it's like when you grew up. I was close to my grandparents, and we always used to say, well, they're old, we need to go see them this summer because one day they're not going to be with us. But all of a sudden, it's like when they got old and you can see somebody in the hospital, they're really not going to be with you. That's the way I'm viewing the world all of a sudden. 10 years is nothing, even though I may not even live that long, but still, my gosh. I mean, this is so real. everything is falling into place. I mean, it's not scary.
It's real.
Scared.
If you're an artist, it's surreal. It's it's a cartoon. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Obama comes out and says, I want gun control and I want communism. Then the UN brings up gun control and communism. And then what does the Pope do? He gives
gun
speeches.
control and communism. You know,
Wow,
and everyone's about global climate change.
Warming. Yeah, every one of them did the global warming shtick on the same week.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm
the
sitting
thing
there.
that finally got me, Larry. I just finally said, there is nothing I can do. Is the combination of the migration of 10 to 20 million people out of the Islamic world, and the realization that I was only partly right relative to Syria. I said America caused it, but I thought America caused it through sheer stupidity in the invasion of
No,
Iraq.
they did it on purpose. I know.
We did it on purpose. We sent the CIA to arm the Shiites, to arm the Sunnis, and we started that civil war on purpose. And yet Americans still rally around the flag, and when you have a document that comes out from the U.S. government in plain speak that says this is what we're going to do, and it precedes the revolution in Syria by 5 years, and not a single major media outlet tells the story, not a single politician holds a hearing on it, nobody says anything.
It's shocking.
You just say, if you have that level of proof that your government is scum, that they're absolutely stunningly immoral, wicked, murderous, and you have that kind of proof, and it means nothing to anybody. And the news story is WikiLeaks publishing the private emails of the director of the CIA, and that's scandalous, and that makes the front page of every periodical, and yet the same week, the same guy, WikiLeaks, releases a document from the U.S. government that has been vetted through all of the channels of intelligence and defense and State Department and White House, saying we're going to start the Syrian civil war by turning Sunnis on Shias, and we're going to arm both sides, and nobody cares. That's the single greatest calamity.
And profit from it.
Nobody cares. Not a single media person said, we were wrong, we were misled. Our articles, we need to redact every one of our articles and change them based upon what happened here. Rather than a Benghazi hearing, there ought to have been hearings on this and saying, oh my God, look what we did. It's like going back to Putin. He said in Libya, you have no idea what you have done. But when that happens, at actions that are absolutely certain to start World War III, and nobody cares, why do a talk show trying to wake people up?
I heard you say that too. You say we put all this information out and it's gone nowhere. The whole propagandizing that goes on here in America while we grow up and everything else, you got Robert Redford out there. He's a bookworm working with the CIA. And, in the end, he says, you see that? I've got all this information. And he looks up at the New York Times. Well, first of all, if he sent that to the New York Times, they wouldn't print it. They're part of the act. So,
100,000 documents have been released from WikiLeaks, all of which are stunningly revealing about the corruption of the U.S. government, and the New York Times leads all major periodicals, and they've done stories on 100 of the 100,000 documents.
Yeah, and they gave both sides, too. Like there's a moral equivalence, I'll bet you. And here's the other problem.
And the reason, by the way, they don't want to do it is twofold. One is they profit from it, the status quo, and number two, they've all been threatened. The U.S. government has gone to all of them and said, if you want to be like Assange, where we trump up charges against you or we hold you accountable for treason, you want to be like Edward Snowden, then, go ahead and print this. But that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to
join the club. Yeah, I understand that. But
here's the National Security Court with a injunction saying that's classified information. You print it, you're a traitor.
Well, here one that struck me this week, and I don't mean to get off this, but these are signs of the times. Scalia said that Americans are going to end up detained in FEMA camps. I mean, he openly stated it. And the governor of Minnesota, they want to bring in another 100,000 welfare recipients called Somalians. And I saw these pictures. I know the difference between somebody escaping Islam and somebody bringing that poison with them. The women were all wearing hijabs or black chadars. That's even. I mean, that's the ultimate. That's, that's the devil.
No, they're bringing the poison with them.
Oh yeah, and the governor of Minnesota
went one step further. Governor of Minnesota, who already has little Mogadishu,
you can leave if you don't like it.
He says that we're bringing them in, and if you don't like it, you should leave.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was stunned. I am shocked at the abject stupidity.
And what's going to happen is there's going to be, over the next 10 years, absolute chaos, because there are a lot of people who are going to say, we've been disenfranchised. These leaders are taking our country away from us, giving it to these thugs, these terrorists. We're not going to take it anymore, and they're going to respond violently, and there's going to be anarchy, and then it's going to become military states around the world trying to get a hold onto power and control the people. And in the process, those of us who have told the truth about the nature of Islam are going to be blamed for the hate. We're going to be blamed for it, even though we said, do not use violence. Use your words. If words are ineffective, then just give up on the people. Words are ineffective.
It doesn't matter. There's no way to fix it.
Yahweh you can't fix it. Don't fight it. Don't fight it. Don't fix it. Yahweh, when Yosha said that, whose image is on that coin, he didn't say, go take a sword and go kill them all, did he?
No.
He didn't say drive them all out of Israel, did he?
No.
He didn't say you can make them better, did he?
No.
No, he said give them what's theirs, and what the things of Yahweh, those are for him. The covenant is for him. That money is God doesn't need it. Give it to Caesar. What do you?
You had said something years ago that makes sense, and what you said, and I think you said this to me in a private email, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but you said I have no hope for the world, but I do have hope for some few individuals, and that's the truth.
Right. That was the only reason I ever did this Blog Talk Rodeo show. The only reason I did Shattering Myths. It's not the only reason I wrote the books. And the primary reason I wrote the books is because I wanted to know. I wanted to know more. And I felt that if I shared what I was learning, that it would be more fun. That anytime you're exposed to something wonderful and you share it, it's more fun. So the books are 100%
It's been rewarding, though, for you.
Yeah.
It has
100% selfish. I mean, I wrote the books selfishly because I enjoyed it more than anything else, and I found that I enjoyed it more when I shared.
Right.
I was having a good time. I'm sorry I'm becoming redundant now, but
yeah, me too. It's just fun. I mean, that's not a sacrifice. It wasn't. It was. I do it because it's fun. You learn a lot, and when you have the opportunity to share what you're learning, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and it helps you learn better.
Absolutely. Of course.
They say you learn so much of what you read, so much of what you learn the most is what you teach. When you teach someone else something, you learn it more yourself.
Correct. It's one thing to learn something because you've read it and you've learned what it is, you know it. It's another thing you make the connection so that you understand it and you can incorporate it into who you are. But then once you teach and share what you have come to understand, then you own it for all time. And that sometimes then when you can go back over something that you have learned and come to understand and share it, and you go over it another time where people are interacting with you, then it becomes literally ingrained in the fabric of your life.
Can I mention something just real quick? And I don't want to, I'm not trying to blow your horn, but I was absolutely amazed with the S&M show, Shattering Myths show, Paulos and Benjamin. Wow. These were some very deep insights. I was amazed. I made a note of it immediately and put it out there. There's been a
that was one of those things that came by way of just out of left field. A friend of mine wanted to do a movie, and he says, I want to name the hero of the movie Benjamin. And I said, don't do that. And I gave him the reasons why, and he went to the Jewish promoter of his movie, and the Jewish promoter said, no, that his understanding of Benjamin is wrong.
Yeah, sure.
So I went through the whole thing with Rachel, and Rachel recognized that out of her womb had come pure evil, and named Benjamin as such. Pure, unadulterated evil has come from me, and she knew him. Father didn't know when he named him. Father had no clue. The babbling baby. That mother had him in her womb for 9 months, and just as the Benjamite pause, the plague of death took her life.
Yeah, Rachel died. Yep, I know.
Then.
But these are not people that observe Torah either,
no,
are they?
But you study that, and you go, Yahweh, how did I miss that?
Face.
How did I miss that? It was for me. It was one of those things where in fact, even your reminder of it here, you get goosebumps.
I know. Well, first of all, he's the plague. Not only is Paul the plague of death, but right there in Bereshith, then he's a wolf, a ravenous wolf that rips and tears. I mean, it's right there.
Right.
That's what Yahweh has to say about Benjamin.
The first thing I'm going to do when I get to retire for a while from Shattering Medicine, and we'll bring the group together, and we'll do a show together one way or another. So we're not going to leave the broadcast medium. We're just going to not do it in the current format. But we're going to continue to do it. But one of the things that I cannot wait to do is to pursue all the references to Shaul, the ones in Hosea, the ones in Yashayah, the ones throughout the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. I really want to.
In Samuel, to the first Sheol, the archetype for the second Sheol, which is the archetype for the beast, he came up to him and he says, I know you, and you feel little and low. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, these are stunning revelations. One of the people, his name's John. He had brought that up to me in a conversation. One of the people in my group, and I was like, wow, okay. Yeah, and there it is. I did a note tying all three of those statements together and putting, about the little lowly horn that grows out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the little horn. And you just take all of Yahweh's condemnation of national leaders, and here now you're going to have a worldwide leader. I said, okay, people.
By the way, doesn't it say something about Paulos' parents to name their son after Sheol?
Really? Yeah.
I mean, really? I was thinking about that today. I was thinking, boy, they must have been some just religious scumbags. His own parents.
Right.
Well, if you're Jewish and you think you might be from the tribe of Benjamin, I mean, you would call Saul, as everything is the transliteration now. They do see quite a lot. There's a lot of Sauls out there.
Yeah, I know.
So, and I don't think they think about it. The way you're thinking about it.
Well, they don't think about it. I mean, he was king of Israel. And he was the king of Israel, which was, from God's perspective, incredibly counterproductive. Yeah, really, really bad. Prototype for all those leaders that would come. Anyway, he then goes on to say, on that day. How many times he's going to tell us? On that day. On that day. I mean, he's going to give you free will right up to the last. But on that day, things change. You still have free will, but under very different conditions. And I want there to be different conditions. I want there to be free will, but I don't want to be subject to, all of this religious and political and military gunk. So Indeed, it shall come to pass that, on that day, anyone who claims to speak on behalf of God, a prophet, will be too ashamed to provide their divine message, their prophecy, or their destructive spiritual visions. They will be too ashamed to deceive, while dressed in their rich robes and fine clothes. You know, I saw pictures today of Bergoglio, Pope Francis Bergoglio, the one that even the Jesuits couldn't stand. Too egotistical and too maniacal, even for the Jesuits. Boy, that's something. That's Bergoglio. That's a mouthful. I mean, but he was essentially imprisoned, sent to purgatory by the Jesuits because they thought that he was way too uncontrollable.
Yeah, for 3 years in a room painted red, you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's only one picture in the room, and that was of death. And everything in the room was blood red, without a window, and just large enough for a bed that had all red bedclothes. So everything was blood red, color of death, and no window. He was sent to there for his time out from the Jesuits. So Bergoglio was pictured. You know, he's rumored to have a brain tumor, and he's sitting there in all of his little fine robes and plain makeup religious guy, you know, and you just look at that stuff and you say, when he got in front of Congress in that religious attire, and you consider this passage, that they in their fine robes will be too ashamed to speak.
Plain religious dress up. That's what
plain religious dress up. You know, on that day, anyone who claims to speak unto God will be too ashamed, even in their rich and fine robes. So he will say, I am not a divine messenger or prophet. I am just an individual who serves the realm of mankind. They're going to change their rhetoric. By the way, the Pope did that too. When the Pope's saying, pray for me, when the Pope took a communist mantra, when the Pope speaks of global climate change and he puts his anti-capitalist message, his pro-communist message out there, what he's doing is saying, you know, I really don't speak for God anymore. I'm just a servant of mankind, which is why he gave it an address at not only the Congress of the United States, but also in the United Nations. He is now being presented as a servant of mankind. This transition we've witnessed before our very eyes. So rather than being a prophet, he's now just a servant of mankind because he's too ashamed to speak for God. So he's going to claim to be a servant of mankind. Pardon?
No, you know, Billy Graham's son, I saw, and I forget the other guy that did the debates with Obama before he became president, that preacher. They had a meeting. I've seen the transcripts of it, and they said, well, you know, if religion's thing is now working out so well, they don't know if Jesus is going to return or whatever they were talking about. But then they said, so what we have to do is transition into being something worthy, you know, to keep our church going. So if we
humanitarian, Samaritans first,
it's been going on for pretty well. Yeah, Franklin Graham, man.
Yep, exactly. You know, his father was a 33rd degree Mason.
That blew me away the first time you said that.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't blow me away.
Total complete fraud. Yeah.
Wow.
But he had a nice cadence to his voice.
Yeah, he was a speechmaker. He could draw a crowd.
Yeah, he was a speechmaker. Yeah, he could draw a crowd. But indeed,
unlike Moshe, who couldn't speak very well.
Yeah. And by the way, these guys all have their own private airplanes.
Sure.
You know, I don't have a problem. You got a private airplane. You earned it in business. You did something where you earned it, and you go fly a private. These guys like Benny Hinn, you know, he has a G4, big old jet. How? Because they did this. But indeed, from your youth, he has made merchandise of men. That's how. You know, these mega church pastors, a bunch of them over there in Korea, they just found that it's absconded with $50 million of their parishioners' money.
50 million? Korea?
50 million.
Got in on
the 50 million of mega church.
Okay.
Yeah, 50 million of the parishioners' money. But indeed, from your youth, you have made merchandise of mankind. You know, they sell on the Shadow Mist show, they sell the Bible stick, which only has the Christian New Testament in it, but it's an oral version of the Christian New Testament. And for $25, you can buy this thing that probably cost $50
tied it into
God's presence.
patriotism. Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah. The Bible stick. The military Bible stick, mind you. Making merchandise of mankind.
That's quite a
stick.
They should call it the Bible stick.
Yeah, the Bible stick. It's more you have your Bible stick on one side and your M16 in the other.
Yeah, but they should call it the Bible stick.
Yeah, the Bible stick. Yeah, particularly with Paul. Well, it is Bible after all, and it is from Babel, and that's the whore of Babylon with Baal, with the Lord. So it's actually perfectly named. We always thought, and this is one of the things where you learn. You just sometimes it takes a long time to have an insight. We've always referred to Bible as the name of the Egyptian sun goddess, Biblia. And it was named, so the Christian book is named after an Egyptian sun goddess, and that's true, but it's 1% of the truth. 90% of the truth is that Bible is based on the consonant root BBL, and BBL is the thing that Yahweh besmirches more than anything else in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. There is nothing he speaks of more negatively than BBL, Babel. That's religious, military, patriotic confusion. And it means Ba-Bel, with the Lord. And so you've got a book that is with the Lord, that is the Hebrew word for confusion, that is associated with the whore of Babylon, and in Yashayah, it's the realm of the adversary, Satan.
And one other thing, one other thing I'd like to throw in there: holy was actually the consort to Krishna, the Eastern sun god, and the most important religious sun festival was holy. So you got a holy Bible.
Yeah, perfect. And of course, Yahweh there's no concept associated with God that's holy. No. Set apart, absolutely. Holy? No. So he has made merchandise by man, and if he's asked, because God's going to hold him accountable, and if he's asked, what about those you wounded by your hands? Those who you injured, those you afflicted? What about them? Accountability. By your own doing. And he will say, their crippling afflictions came by way of my lover's house. Oh, the house of love. Yes, what we need more is just love in the world. We got to get rid of all those hate speakers. Hate is the thing we need to get rid of. We'll just all get along in love. It's all about love.
And forgiveness. Don't forget.
God is love. Tolerance. Right. Yeah. But it's tolerance in the name of intolerance. Of course. My lover's house. And you know what they love, of course, is they love all things that God hates.
And they love the church.
Yeah. Well,
this man is
church. Some love other men.
To the Torah. I mean,
some love opposition to the Torah. Some love other men. Some love power.
He's going to love everything that's in opposition to the Torah.
So
he'll love every religious
institution that I love. Right. Whatever those institutions are, whether it be your political party or your country or your military or whatever it is that you've fallen in lust with. And they are burned by the sun and blinded. In opposition to the Most High Shepherd, against the Most High's mighty individual, who is closely related to and associated with me, Yahweh, of the spiritual messengers, prophetically declares Yahweh.
And yet the rabbis can't find him in there. The guy associated with him.
Who's that mighty man, the Gabur, the powerful individual that is a shepherd that is associated with Yahweh?
Yahusha.
Yahusha. But they're just blinded by the sun.
Burned and blinded.
Burned and blinded by the sun.
Yeah, they're over with.
That's weird.
That's hard to do when it's sundown. I mean,
Yeah, well, that's true. But just amazing the amount of sun god images and doctrines that are part of Christianity. Everything from the cross to the steeple to the word church to the Bible that's inside of it to the Trinity to Sunday worship. It's Christmas and Easter. They're all sun god, Babylonian, holy concepts. And so they're blinded by the sun. That's why there's so many, driving by the church steeples in Ohio. One of the things you see just everywhere is the circle, the sun disk that's around their cross. The crosses with the circle on the cross, they're just everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And they're Lutheran, too.
Yeah, why don't we just say, we are sun worshipers with our steeples and our halos in the middle of our crosses.
And it's hard to imagine that these preachers, especially with all the information, there's hundreds of postings about that now everywhere, and it's hard to imagine with all the social media and all that going out and people exposing it that these preachers don't know it. I mean, they have to know it. They absolutely have to know it at this point. Or live in a cave.
Yeah, they have to know it. Yeah, they're not ignorant. So muster the spiritual messengers against the ones who are leading. And this is actually one singular who is leading. So at this point, they're mustering the spiritual messengers against the Torah-less one, so that the flock scatters. God wants division, and He's not looking for all the little sheep to come to Him. He wants to scatter the flock. Then I will use my power, the Most High's power, for the little ones, His children. So once He's scattered the flock, He's going to use His power on behalf of His children. And it shall come to exist in the whole of the land, prophetically declares Yahweh, 2/3 shall be cut off and die, and 1/3 shall be spared. So He's going to even scatter the Israelites. There are some that are going to benefit from His power. There's others that are going to be choose poorly. And as a result, 2/3 are going to die. I will return to this 1/3. They didn't say I'm going to. He's talking about Israelites now. I'm going to return for this 1/3. He is not returning for His church. He's returning for this 1/3. That's all you'd have to do. All these Christians think He's returning. He's coming back for His church. Well, that's not what He said. He's coming back to this remnant. He
doesn't have a church.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, he's talking about Jerusalem. He's talking about the family of David. Is where He's coming back and what He's going to do. And He's speaking of His land, and He says, that the 2/3 are going to be cut off, and 1/3. I'm coming back for that 1/3. There is no reference here, no possibility for Christianity. I will return to this 1/3. In the fire I will refine them, as one refines silver and test them, as one does gold. And they will summon my personal and proper name, and I will answer them. You can't summon Jesus. You can't summon Christ. You can't summon Allah. You can't summon Lord. He only has one personal and proper name, and if you're not using it, you aren't going to be one of those 1/3. And
which
so
that
it says
goes back to the pouring out of acceptance, doesn't it? Because you wouldn't get a third of the people in Jerusalem to say Yahweh today. You would.
It used to bother me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to.
No, it just used to bother me that I say, they don't use His name, so how many of them will know it and everything. But every time you bring it up with someone who is in modern vernacular Jewish, they all know. Don't say that. They know His name.
Yeah, they know His name. Yeah, and I've never had, since I came up with Yahweh, and I didn't come up with Yahweh. No, what I did is open my mind and was open my eyes, and I looked at all of the Hebrew words and how each of these letters was pronounced. I mean, it took several days of going through every single Hebrew word that had these letters in it, and it was obvious that it is Yahweh. And since I've said Yahweh, I've not had a single person say, you're wrong. I mean, I've had one guy that just had this unbelievable fixation with Yahowah. But
yeah, we have those on FB, by the way. There is no O in Paleo Hebrew. Oh, so Torah doesn't exist. Goy doesn't exist. I mean, I
Shalom
write
doesn't exist. Yeah.
And I make that look stupid. I write the whole sentence with, on the Yubble year, I was sitting with Yub, reading the Torah, and he said Shalom, I said, what are you speaking, Barney Rubble? Oh, they get upset. And all they've done is looked at a YouTube where some pretend teacher is standing there and says there's no O in
I don't know who that guy is, but he has really found an audience.
I know.
Anytime you go against Yahweh, you'll find an audience.
Well, that's true, too.
But why would you pick something like this? I mean, why pick something like this?
Something so obviously stupid. Yob is Yub. Yob. Well, that's a tough word. I mean, if you think about it, some of these names are almost unpronounceable if you put a U in there.
Yes, Shalom. Shalom. Shalom, my friend. Shalom.
I think they're saying Shalom.
Shalom.
And Torah. They write
Torah and Shalom.
T-U-R. They really do. I've seen them do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Of course, I realize they're not family. They're just what they're doing is imitating some boobery with no thought. And,
of course, yeah. So I'm going to return to this one third. The word return is from Bo. It is B-W. No, it's Bo. This 1/3 in the fire, the ish. So he's telling us here that he's refining them in the fire, the fire. And he's telling us later that you really need to answer my invitation and come into the midst of the feminine manifestation of my fire. So he's equating that, I'm speaking here as Yahweh, so I'm going to use ish masculine, just as because that's from whence I spoke to you the Torah. And then he's going to say, I've invited you to come into the spiritual manifestation of my light. But here the defining things are, you've got to know Yahweh's name, and you've got to understand how he uses fire to refine. And the fire is he spoke the Torah into existence from the midst of the fire. He led his children to the promised land with a pillar of fire. And he tells us 4 times a year to come into the presence of the spiritual mother, who enlightens, the feminine word for fire. He says they will proclaim, they will kara, invite, proclaim, read aloud, recite my personal and proper name, Shem, so you've got to actually know it, and I will answer them. He didn't say they'll call me anything that they want, and I won't care what they call me. Because he's already said all the names that have been conceived by man, they're gone. So now he only has one name. You either know it and use it and love it and proclaim it, or you aren't going to be answered by Yahweh. And I will say, by the way, if you're praying, in Jesus' name we pray. God says, no, if you want to call upon me, you're going to use my personal and proper name if you want me to answer. That's what he said right here. If you're praying in the name of God, amen, he's not answering you. If you pray in Jesus' name, he's not answering you. This is the only way you're going to get an answer. Behold, Yahweh's day of return is coming. It doesn't say Jesus' day of return is coming. It doesn't say the Lord's day of return is coming. Yahweh's day. And he's put it in context of all of this stuff that's going to happen. The world's mourning. There's no more religious names. His children, 2/3 are gone, 1/3 remains. He's enabled a spirit of acceptance to be upon Jerusalem and on Israel. He's reinvigorated what it meant to be in the family of Dod. All of these things, where is no more person speaking on in behalf of God. Even the religious people are saying, "Oh, yeah, we're doing this, and we're servants of mankind."
Yeah, we're afraid of you, so now we're trying to kind of back off.
So, are there a third of Israelites in Israel that are right now proclaiming the name Yahweh?
No.
No. So we're not to this date yet, are we?
No.
No.
In fact, at the time this was written, or right around 500 BCE, were a third of the children of Israel saying the name Yahweh. In fact, at any time from 500 BCE to the present date, has there been any day at any time when 1/3 of Israelites spoke His name Yahweh?
No. Of course not. Especially not then, because you could physically be, put to death by the rabbis.
And
you would be.
We could well be. I don't want to take credit for anything here, but we could well be. The part of the mechanism that enables this, because all of the writings and all of the postings and all of the explanations as to how
you got the shows, you got the notes, you got the people proclaiming it. All in our group, you got Richard's site, blessyahweh.com.
Yep.
And there's been plenty, believe me, of Jewish people, and of course Elise is always in there banging with them, just throwing the name out. And so, there are seeds being planted. That's what we do. We're trumpets. I mean, obviously, Yahweh wouldn't really care for us to be trumpets if it didn't matter.
Right. But being part of His family, it matters to us. Because it matters to Him. Yeah, it matters to us because it matters to Him. So behold, Yahweh's day. This is Yahweh's day of coming. His day of return is coming. Pay attention. A day is coming to approach Yahweh. And then that which is good and valuable will be apportioned and assigned in your midst. What's good and valuable? First time through this, I thought, oh gosh, there's going to be all of those morons that came to attack Israel. He's going to divvy up their benefits. I said, what in the heck are you going to use? Silver, gold, or weapons, or anything? Yeah, how are you going to use that in the millennial Shabbat?
Yeah, I was kind of taken by that.
The only thing that's valuable in the millennial Shabbat is being perfect, being immortal, being adopted, being empowered, being enriched. Those are things that are worthwhile. I'd happy to have those portions.
What did you say? It's like going to
I want the Torah in my heart.
What's valuable? The Torah is good. Yeah, how about that? Let's just take the Torah and put it inside of us. That'll be just fine to have. And that's what he's talking about here. He's going to be able to apportion those things. Pay attention. Good and valuable. I will gather all the people from different races and places to Jerusalem for battle. The city will be seized. The family and their houses shall be plundered, and the women shall be raped. Half of the inhabitants of the city shall leave as exiles, but the remainder of my people shall not be cut off nor banished from the city. So there's only one group of people today that use plunder and rape as the primary motivations for their terrorist acts: Muslims. And it's amazing that in today's world you could have a group of people so universally committed to plunder and rape. But look what's happened with Boko Haram. Look what's happened with the Islamic State. Plunder and rape. God is saying that in Jerusalem, these Muslims are going to plunder and rape. That's why he's given all of this warning. This is why he's finally said to those who are going to accept him, I'm going to protect you because you're going to need it at this time. And they're going to come against Jerusalem one final time, plundering and raping, showing who they are. Then Yahweh will come forth to oppose the Gentiles. This Gentile church, God's coming forth to oppose the Gentiles, not to embrace them, not to accept them. All of Rome has been wrong. The Roman Catholic Church has been wrong. America has been wrong. Europe has been wrong. The Muslims have been wrong. Wrong side of God. Then I will come forth to oppose the Gentiles, engaging in battle that day, myself, in their midst. Perfect. God's going to defend his children. He's not coming back as all syrupy love. No.
You know, in Jeremiah, he says, "Oh, Gentiles, they'll come to me from all over and say, surely, everything our forefathers were given was worthless lies." Now, this is at the very end. I give this to Christians all the time, that verse. And you know what? It doesn't faze them.
No.
See, what God says they don't care about, not even a little bit.
No. No, they don't. It doesn't faze them.
Nope.
On that day, he will present himself, his feet standing upon the Mount of Olives, which relationally faces Jerusalem on the east. That day, he's going to come back, and he's going to come back to the Mount of Olives. So when Yosha said, you know, this is well, the way you're seeing me leave right here on the Mount of Olives, the way I'm coming back. That's what he said. That's all. I don't think there's anything in that Yosha says in the witness writings that isn't already confirmed. He's telling you what he's told you. Escape to safety through the mountain valley. He's telling us those that 1/3 that's accepted him, he doesn't want them even for this brief moment to be hurt in this way. So escape to safety through the mountain valley. For indeed, the mountain valley will reach the place where you will be set apart and taken away. So I'm providing a sanctuary for you. Depart in haste, similar to how you fled in the presence of the earthquake in the days of King Uzziah of Yahowah. And the reason that's important is because he's later going to tell us about the earthquakes that transpire. You know, when they have the 7 seals and the 7 vials, they always conclude with this earthquake. So he's now referencing the earthquake. And the earthquake has to happen because what he needs to do is he needs to rid the world, and particularly in Israel initially, right off the get-go, he's got to, because this earthquake is going to go right from the Mount of Olives, right through the Temple Mount, right through Mount Moriah, right to the sea. And everything that is religious and political and militaristic in nature is instantly pulverized. That's the purpose of those earthquakes. It says, you know, go to safety. You don't want to be around when I do this. And then he says, and Yahweh, my God, he's going to return, and all of those who are set apart with him. That's what Yosha said. Yosha said, you know, the set apart are going to come from the four corners of the earth. He said it in the Olivet Discourse. Everything he said in the Olivet Discourse you find right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to come from the four corners of the universe.
Yeah, four corners of the universe. I misspoke. I meant to say four corners of the universe. We're going to be out exploring, and we're going to come back to see this incredible day. And it is
most important day.
Right. And when Yosha said, you know, he's talking to his disciples, and he says, like I have told you before. No, I have told you before. And then he talks about how he's going to return, as brilliant as the sun. And yet he never told them that before. Not in those 3 years. So why would he say, as I've told you before? Because there's one place he told them before, because it's the place
right here in Zechariah.
That's exactly right. Just like I told you 500 years ago.
Well, and Malachi too. I mean, they confirm each other, by the way. You know, because you've got Malachi saying the exact same thing. I mean, the exact same thing.
Correct.
So, you know, I mean,
like I've told you before. I'm reinforcing what I've told you. That's why on the upright pole of Pesach, he's saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's quoting what he said before, so that we would turn there and come to understand what it is that is going to happen and what is the best response. Like, for one thing for sure, I'm going to find out what it is to accept Yahweh. You know, if I'm not there, I'm going to emphasize that, and I'm sure as heck going to learn his name. Right?
Quick introduction.
Quick introduction, yeah. And Yahweh, my God, will return to all those who are set apart. Oh, my goodness. Set apart. Well, you better figure out what set apart means. The Shabbat, set apart. Seventh day, set apart. The Moed Mikre are all set apart. So you better look at, okay, I better pay attention to the Shabbat. I better pay attention to the Moed Mikre. I better pay attention to Yahweh's name. That's set apart. I better pay attention to the Shabbat. That's set apart. Better pay attention to the set apart spirit.
The light.
Is it set apart? She's set apart. Yahweh's word, Yahweh's Torah, Jerusalem, the covenant. You know, if you want to be one of the set apart, you better focus on those things that are set apart. Come to understand why set apart is so important. And he will send forth his messengers with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his chosen 4 winds from one end of the heavens to the other extreme. Wind in Hebrew, of course, is the Hebrew word for spirit. So he's taking spiritual beings from one end of the universe to the other. The passage I just read is Matanya. He's quoting Zechariah. He's not telling you something that wasn't previously known. And then this statement, this is, we didn't get to the end, obviously, guys, and we can go a little further here tonight, but we didn't get to the end of this passage. But this is kind of where no, we never do. No, that's true. You know, it's because every time you go through it, you learn something new. Yeah. And it says, and your soul should respond and answer, appearing before and approaching the maternal manifestation of Yahweh's light, of the light that elevates and enlightens and purifies. I'm returning on Yom Kippurim. This is the instruction on Yom Kippurim. If you do this, then you're going to be protected. I gave you this instruction for a reason. This is the Yom Kippurim instruction. You know, I'm coming to the set apart, those who set this day apart, who answered the invitation, who came, and if you haven't done it up to this point, do it now. Hopefully you'll be one of those, the 1/3 that survived. Hopefully you're in Israel. But if you're not in Israel, it's way, way too late. And the whole thing is, too, let's just say you're not in Israel. You're somebody who's listened to this. Somebody gave it to you because it was posted someplace on a YouTube or someplace like that. You stumbled on the Blessed Yahweh site that Richard has. Somehow you just Blog Talk Radio and you found this archive. You found it somehow. Why would you wait? You're being invited right at this very moment to be part of the Creator's family. He's told you, I'm going to make you immortal, I'm going to make you perfect, I'm going to adopt you, I'm going to enrich you, I'm going to empower you, and you're going to find that the greatest voyage of discovery that any human can embark on is to translate and to understand his testimony, his guidance. Why would you want to wait?
Can I add something here? It's kind of important.
Yeah.
He's not telling you to move to Yisrael, however.
No.
You know, and there will be a remnant, actually, from the U.S. of Yehudim that come back.
But that remnant from the U.S. is taken back to Israel during the tribulation.
Oh,
they're
really?
Taken back to, that's when they're taken back. God brings all of his family out of America and Europe, but particularly America. He speaks specifically of the American Israelites, and after the harvest of the covenant children, the world becomes so anti-Jewish that just to have a remnant that he can approach and affirm his promise to Abraham. He has to bring it out of America.
But then it's a good point too for those that don't know. Is that the people who are viewed as family will be gone during the Towrah harvest, so they won't face this tribulation period.
No,
it's important
for them. His children go through that.
No, yeah, that would
what
be
purpose
against
would
his
it
nature.
be?
There'd be none.
No,
None.
no. We've already said everything that. Could we say more? Yeah, you're always learning more about Yahweh, but we've already shared more than you need to know about Yahweh to come to know Yahweh. You know, the nuances that we learn each day are nice. You know, it's nice to add an understanding of Bible from Babel and understand the whole correlation of what that means with the Lord and being the satanic influence over Babylon and how Babylon is present even into the last day, and that the last thing that Yahweh says is come out of Babylon, my people. Come out of Babylon. And that means come out of the Bible. Come out of Christianity.
Yep, really
come out of Judaism.
Sure.
Come out of these things. Yeah.
Yep.
So same story all the way through, and you'd be a fool of fools to say, you know, well, when's the last time I can do this? You know, it's like telling somebody that you can eat your favorite ice cream and your favorite cake 24/7 and not gain an ounce of weight. And you'd say, you know, I think I'd rather put that off. I'd rather starve myself and exercise 2 hours a day. When's the last day that I can have guilt-free cake and ice cream? You know, why would you want to do that?
Because it tastes good, pal. That's why. But no.
Go for it. Go for it.
No,
That's what Yahweh told us. He says, you know, you can, you know, so long as you're thoughtful about it, you can eat anything you want. Now, this shall come to pass on a day in which there shall not be a diminishing of his esteemed and beloved light. Coming back, man, without the ratchet down. Then to the same statement from Yahusha in Mount Yonder in the Olivet Discourse. Behold, I have told you in advance. For just as a brilliant and shining constellation comes forth, to bring forth light, causing it to shine brilliantly to the far extent of the setting sun in the west, in the same manner shall the presence of the Son of Man be. So here he is. He's saying, I told you this before. It's in Malachi, it's in Zechariah. I'm coming back without being diminished. I'm coming back as brilliant light.
Can I throw in one verse here? I mean, this is almost word for word. It's Malachi. Mm-hmm. Indeed, from the brilliant servant's shining eastern arrival until his entrance at sunset, my name will be great and among the Gentiles, and in every home which gathers together, approaches, and draws near, the purifying offering, which encloses and joins to my name, a purifying and cleansing gift indeed. My name is exceedingly powerful and great in and among the Gentiles, Yahweh of the core of assistance. That's the same, that's almost, you know, if I was going to match it, that would be the one I would match it to.
Yeah, and all this has references to the other things we have read up to this point. It's sort of a summation of everything we've read up to this point. And then it says, and this is the one that is convoluted and twisted by Christianity in their New Testament. It shall be, Hayat, it exists as, the one, Echad, the only exclusive and unique, the certain and explicit day, the one and only day, that he becomes known, Yada, personally revealed, understood, and acknowledged, according to and to approach Yahweh. It's not the day that only the Father knows. It's the one day known to the Father that he's going to be revealed. There's only one acceptable day for his return. Only one. He says, you know, this day is the one day, and only one day, exclusive, unique day, that I'm going to become known, and that you can approach me. This is the day.
And that's Kippurim, year 6,000.
Yes, exactly
40
that
Yobel.
day. Right.
40 Yobel from
it is so obvious
seasons.
that this is Kippurim. Yeah, because there is no acknowledgement that Yahweh becomes known on Towrah. Those that know Yahweh become unknown to the world on Towrah.
Since there's so few of them making that.
So as you're going through the Moed Mikra, the first 4 are already fulfilled. The 5th one is the day that not that Yahweh becomes known, it's the day that those who know Yahweh become unknown. You know, so 100% of those who know Yahweh no longer exist on this planet, on Towrah. So that ain't this day. So we got to move to the next Moed Mikra. And it's the one that is defined by all the rhetoric that has preceded this, Yom Kippurim, the Day of Reconciliations.
By the way, I just want to throw this out there, and I know we're doing Kippurim and the return in the exact minute. There's one other thing I'd like to throw in. Have you ever noticed, I mean, the unknown day, and that's Towrah, and it was even called the unknown day.
Right.
This is when, you know, standing grain is taken away, you know.
Right.
Very odd that all these preachers pick a time, and it's always at midnight, I think. I think it's always at midnight. Like he's on, you know, the Gregorian calendar or something.
Calendar, yeah. Yahweh doesn't have a midnight.
No.
No, there's only 2 times a day.
The sunset.
Right. Yeah, and those 2 times a day are the same time of day. Really. Sunset.
Yeah.
Sunset is because sunset marks the end of one day and the beginning of a new day. So there's really just the beginning of the day and the end of the day are coterminous, and it's sundown.
Yeah.
It ain't midnight, folks. That ain't dawn.
It's sure weird
folks.
that they picked the day of their rapture, they call it, which is insane on its face.
Right. Yeah, because it's wolf-like. It's a tearing apart. It's based on the Hebrew word or the Greek word for tearing apart, and of course it's also tied to the Latin word for rupture.
Wow. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's like a wolf does.
Very odd, though, that they picked the unknown day to try to give a date. I've always thought this the stupidest thing since I've learned what Towrah is and how there's really no way to give it the exact minute or hour, and that's kind of what he says. We know
and
what
of course,
it is.
The only term that is every time it's referred to as a rapture is a Roman transliteration of Paul's rhetoric, and yet Paul got the time wrong.
Reliable.
So why would you pick a name based exclusively on a Greek word chosen by Paul, transliterated into Latin, transliterated into English, when he said it was going to happen during his lifetime, and he got it wrong? I mean, think it through, Christian. When he introduces that term, he said that it was going to occur during his lifetime. He was wrong. So why use his term? Why not use Yahweh's term? Why not discount the guy that got his one and only prophecy wrong?
And rejuggle it.
Yeah, so here's the statement in the Olivet Discourse from the Word made flesh. So too, when you see all of these things, recognize that I'm near. And indeed, at the threshold, at the doorway. Indeed, I say, this is sure and true. This generation will not pass away until all of these things take place. So how could he not know the day if he just said, here's all the things that are going to take place? And he just cited, I've told you in advance, 500 years ago, 400 years ago, that this is what's going to occur. And I've told you everything is going to occur right before I return. And I've said that even the generation that's alive there, that they're not going to pass away. It's got to happen within 70-some years of the time that Israel becomes a nation again, but that I don't know the time?
The only way the Christian interpretation makes any sense is if Yahusha was being very, very sarcastic. All this is going to happen before I come back, but I don't know when I'm coming back. I mean, if he said it in a really sarcastic tone, their interpretation might work.
You know,
you have to assume Yahusha couldn't read the Torah, because if we can figure it out.
Yeah, hey, listen, if we can read the Torah and figure it out, my guess the author of the Torah can figure it out.
Can figure it out.
A lot more accurate.
I'm the Word. You'll see, I'm the Word. I'm the Torah. But I can't figure it out. No, come on.
I don't know.
Yeah. Then he says, the universe and the earth will disappear, but conversely, my word will not in any way be disregarded. He just told you where to look for his word. He just told you, I've told you in advance, that means it's Malachi and Zechariah, particularly Zechariah, and he's saying, you know, my word is never going to be disregarded. Heaven and earth may disappear. My word, it's good forever. So how could there be a New Testament? How can his word not be able to save in the Torah if his word is established forever? How can you have a replacement religion if his word is valid forever? Oops. But nevertheless, concerning the immediate vicinity of that one specific and definite day, no one recognizes. Not the messengers of heaven, only the Father, the only one who exists for all time. All right, so that's the end of Matanya 24:36. It does not say not the Son, but you do have in Mark, yeah, not the Son. Although here's what's important: there are 18 pre-Constantine manuscripts of Matanya. This passage
and that one ain't there.
And one ain't there.
Yeah, and as we all know, they can write anything they want, like adding, he who is without sin, throw the first stone. They have to add that, and we know why, because that supports the Babylonian Trinity myth.
Right, and it also eliminates the Torah. It has him altering the Torah. It has him contradicting himself, by the way, but that doesn't bother anybody. So now you're dealing with Mark 13:32, but guess what? We only have one manuscript of Mark dating to the 1st through 3rd century CE, and it ends with the 12th chapter. So none of this precedes Constantine, and by the time of Constantine, they did whatever they wanted with the text.
Yeah, you can't.
If you don't have it prior to Constantine, the reliability is 5%, 10%. No, I don't think it's that good.
Not even that good.
I don't think it's anywhere close to
that. Well,
that.
I mean, it purposely misleads. If I say to you that, you know what, Kirk, JB, Yada, it's been a pleasure, anytime I'm on the radio with you guys. And, it stops right there, but, this is another trick they do. It's like they'll give you a half a passage.
Right.
And then I said, it's been so nice, I think I'm going to go out and buy a gun and buy one bullet and suck on it. Thanks, guys. I just said two different things, and I was being obviously cynical, at the start of that. But that's what they do all throughout that stuff. I mean, you've seen them side by side. I've seen them I've got notes just showing verses side by side for that reason, so people can, as JB said last week, wean themselves off, Babel.
We had him saying his word's going to endure forever. We just said, I've told you in advance. We've seen him run through the presentation in Zechariah, and on Zechariah it says, this is the one day. There is one day that Yahweh is going to become known. And so, if you want to know what word stands forever, it's the word that's where he's describing this day and this event where he's coming back undiminished as light. And it's the one day that he, exclusive to all others, that he's going to be known and that we can approach him.
Yeah,
I mean, that's so the best we have here is Zechariah, written in Hebrew with copies dating back to 200 BCE. So as I have shared with folks, and it's in the book itself, there are 5 ways that you can interpret the Yosha's statement. The first of them is that if we retain not even the Son, and you say that's valid, then you can toss away all of it. Then you have no Christianity, you have no Jesus, you have no Christ, you have no credibility, you've got nothing. This man was an imposter. Yeah, the whole thing is a complete and utter fraud. There is no way that the Word made flesh, who has just told you what he wrote, what he inspired 400 years earlier, was unaware of the Word. That he was unaware of what Yahweh just said in terms of
unable to put two and two together.
Yes. Yeah. That
he wrote it.
He wrote it.
Yeah.
He laid out the plan. He was there at creation. He is there on his return. He is a spiritual entity, which means that at that very moment he could be examining his return and tell them every detail about it.
And probably was.
Yeah, and probably was, as he was telling them about it. So it's absurd for him not to know what he has just predicted. In fact, he just predicted the entire timeline that gave us the time. And to say that he concludes all that by saying, oh, by the way, I'm clueless. I haven't got a clue. We're dealing with the fact that there are 300,000 known variants between the Textus Receptus and the older manuscripts. The Greek we have today actually reads, not, Ode, the messengers, agelos, of heaven, if not the Son. So if not the Son, Yosha as the Son is excluding himself from those who do not know. Under that basis now, all you've got is the fact that you've got spiritual beings, therefore eternal beings, in the Malach who don't know. Now, I suppose that's
I find that hard too. Yeah.
Well, I find it hard to fathom that, how a spiritual being would not know the future, since they exist in all time. But is there the possibility that Yahweh is taking a spiritual being, because they're tools, they're implements, for crying out loud,
Sure.
and he's saying, I'm not going to let you go forward in time, I'm not going to let you go backward in time. You're going to exist for all time, but I'm not going to allow you to maneuver in time, because if I allow you to maneuver in time, those rebellious, the fallen Malach, could really screw things
Do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a possibility.
So there is really a possibility.
Torah, no.
They could still read the Torah and know.
Yeah.
But was the Torah written for them? No. Yeah, the Torah wasn't written for them, but they could read the Torah and know.
No, but I mean,
So, but I don't feel they need to explain it.
No,
but I just giving you those thoughts. Those are possibilities. But when he didn't speak Greek, and so it's a translation anyway. But not the messengers of heaven, if not the Son. So he's excluding himself from those that don't know. Now, the second option, one predicated by the removal of not even the Son, requires us to assume that Yahweh's messengers, who are, the spiritual beings, that they just have no curiosity, or that they're constrained as tools by Yahweh. And so, okay, that's the possibility there. As for mankind, however, the universally ignorant interpretation requires us to make Yosha's statement open-ended. That is to say, no one will ever know. But that's not what he said. And it requires us to question why God would provide an overwhelming amount of detail specific to his plan, his timeline, and particularly in this, the whole purpose of the Olivet Discourse is to provide the timing to answer the question. And then say, I answered your question, but you're all way too stupid to benefit from the answer I just gave you. Now, our third alternative is obvious, and the first modern theologian, if you will, to consider its implications within the context of God's timeline, at least in the Greek, was John Mill. He did it in 1707. The question was completely answered by John Mill if you're going to focus on the Greek, because his argument requires you to focus on the Greek, and in the Greek it's oida, in Matania 24:36. And it's rendered in the present tense. So Yosha is simply saying that he is not saying that no one has ever known. He is not saying that no one would ever know. He's just saying that right at this moment, no one recognizes the time. And Elida is the weakest form of knowing. There are three Greek words for knowing. Elida simply means aware, recognizes. Gnosko means know. You really know something to be true based on the evidence. And epignosko means that with complete and accurate knowledge, you have come to an understanding. That's epignosko. But Elida just means you're just not aware. And in the present tense, all it means, and this is what Mill wrote. He says he didn't say no one would figure it out. It's obvious. He just said at that very moment that you don't know. Present tense.
You're not aware.
You're not aware. And by the way, they weren't aware. They weren't even aware of what was going to happen the following day. Well, that day in Hebrew, that same day, they weren't aware it was going to happen. They had no clue how he was going to fulfill Matzah and Bakodim. And even when he fulfilled Matzah and Bakodim, as he had stated he was going to do in his word, they didn't understand it. They were scared to death. They had no clue. They didn't even know who he was. So Yahowah used ordinary people to convey these magnificent things so that they wouldn't be beyond us. And this is one of those cases. So that's a beautiful recognition here that he could not say that no one would ever figure it out, because we have. He just simply said at that time no one recognized what he was saying. They didn't even recognize what was going to happen tomorrow, for crying out loud. Now the fourth option is relative to understanding this passage is tied to the fact that Yosha quickly transitioned in this whole all of the discourse discussion regarding Teruah, which is, when are you going to come back for us? And so, that was the primary question that was asked, and he's been talking about, instead of when are you going to come back for us, he's kind of, I don't want to say that he's like me, but I mean, when somebody asks me a question, I want to go right to the beginning and say, okay, let's lay the context here. Before I can answer this question, this is the stuff you need to know. Well, that's what Yosha did. They asked him a question, when are you going to come back for us? He said, before I answer that question, this is the other stuff that you need to know. This is really important stuff for you to know. And then he transitioned after when I'm going to come, back to earth versus when I'm going to come back for my children. And now he's transitioning to when I'm coming back for my children. He says it's the day that no one knows. So that would be Teruah. That's what they call it. No one knows.
Always called the unknown day.
Right. Yeah. So you talk about sarcastic. Now he's being really sarcastic now.
Adding the credibility of that one, though, is the fact that the John Mill explanation ignores the fact that Hebrew doesn't have tenses.
I know. That's correct.
And so, from his perspective, when he spoke Hebrew, it wasn't no one currently knows. It was no one knows whenever will know or know, in Hebrew.
But he could, but Hebrew has something that would be the equivalent of that. Hebrew has the perfect and the imperfect.
Yes.
And so he could have used the perfect in yada. And he could have said, right now, no one knows. Mm-hmm. But if he used the imperfect, which would be no one would ever know. So he could have communicated the same thing in Hebrew using the perfect.
I didn't think about that. That makes sense, so.
And this is also an assumption.
By the way, I didn't think about that until this very second. But so don't. If you're going to be hard on yourself for not recognizing that, I have to be hard on me too, because I just now realized it. But he could have communicated it in Hebrew. So in this particular case, the argument that I rendered that is only for the Greek and he didn't speak Greek is that argument still prevails, because he could have communicated the exact same concept, even though Hebrew doesn't have a present tense. It has a finite tense. Consider the perfect as a finite tense. It's a completed action of the past, present, or future. And so in the present, it wouldn't be ongoing in the perfect.
I'm going to have to cut out if that's...
it is.
Getting dark. Can Are you going to be there Monday if I call in?
Yes. In fact, I just communicated with Scott 2 minutes before the show, and we are live all next week, and probably will be. We could be ongoing for 4 weeks, as far as I know. And I think it's okay for us to talk about that. We're going to have a finite period of the show, the way it exists on Shattering Myths, in this forum, but we're not going to talk about it in this forum.
Nothing said. I appreciate being with y'all. I enjoy it tremendously. Let me go walk my dog before it gets dark to walk her.
Okay.
Take care. I'm glad you're better, JB. And hey, Larry.
Glad to be better.
Happy Shabbat.
No, hey, it's you know what? It's always good to hear an exciting voice. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I know. I love. Isn't it fun being around Kirk? I mean, it really is fun. It's just.
I know. He's the guy with panache. I'm telling you.
I know. He gets the covenant. That's something we're all laughing. We're laughing, but that's the nature of the tone of voice that is consistent. We had Lisa on the program not too long ago. The tone of her voice is exactly the same. It's William when he calls in and does the show. The tone of his voice is exactly the same. Everybody has this childish enthusiasm, this exuberance for being part of the family and for Yahweh's testimony. Yeah.
I'm delighted to be here, but let me walk my dog.
And the fun thing is, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to try. It's just natural. It flows right out of us.
I'm going to get going.
True.
Well, I'll see y'all later.
It's been a pleasure, and I guess you can stay on with me if you like and finish this off. Yada.
All right, why don't we? We're so close to the end because this is now the fourth. Yeah, the fourth option, and there's only 5 options all total, and the fourth option is that he was speaking of the unknown day, and so the hidden day known only to the Father in their warped minds was when the Jews who had corrupted Towrah to being this day was the day that Satan accused Jews of being bad before God. So if they used their trumpets to confuse the devil, then the devil would forget and miss the appointment, and therefore that became the unknown day, where the devil was confused.
Rocks.
Right, the Islamic thing. So it's religiously known as Rosh Hashanah, and that's when he is going to return for his family. Now, the fifth consideration is the obvious one. And that is that based upon the similarities between the Olivet Discourse and Zechariah, that he was citing this portion of Zechariah, so that it is, and it shall be Haya, the one, the exclusive Echad day, he becomes known, according to and to approach Yahweh. That's the logical conclusion, particularly in the context of saying, I have told you before, in the context of him telling us exactly what's in the Olivet Discourse, specifically about his return as light, and it's the only one that makes sense in the context of him also saying, my word exists forever. Nothing's changed. If you want to know what I'm going to do and what's going to happen, look what I've told you. Everything I've said is true. It's always going to be true. And in that context, the only rational, logical, informed conclusion is he told us the following, and this is what he said on the Mount of Olives. It shall be the one, the exclusive day, that he becomes known, according to and to approach Yahweh. Zechariah 14:7. That's what he said. Here then is the next statement, and straight up. So if you want to know what he said, that's what he said. If you're a Christian said no one knows the hour, and you say no, what God said is it shall be the one day he becomes known to approach Yahweh. That's what he said. And his word endures forever. That's what he said. We know that's what he said. The rest of it is religious rubbish. But nonetheless, concerning the immediate vicinity of that one specific and definite day, Well, now, how could he say, I don't know the day, when he said that one specific indefinite day? And the hour that no one recognizes. Not the messengers of heaven, only the Father. Only the one who exists for all time. No, what he actually said is, but nonetheless, concerning the immediate vicinity of that one specific day and that hour. Yeah, it's true that not one of you currently is aware of this. Only the Father, who exists for all time. There shall be no day and no light, and then light shall exist at that point of time of sundown. So has he, in Zechariah, rather than saying, oh boy, you don't even know the day, you don't know the hour, he says that's the one specific day, and then he's giving you the exact hour, sundown.
The exact minute, because that's
right.
Sundown, and that's what, and that's exactly what Malachi said at
Right.
sundown.
6:22 p.m.
Yeah.
in Jerusalem on October 2nd, 2033. That's translated into our pagan timepiece and Roman calendar. But if you want to know if you're more comfortable with years Yah, it is sundown.
Year 6,000.
On the beginning of Yom Kippurim in year 6,000 Yah.
Yep, at sundown. So you got it to the minute. So he gives us to the minute, and there's no other reason to tell us other than to tell us to the minute, because he already told us that he fulfills all the Moed Mikra.
Yep.
And if that being the case, all the Mikra are fulfilled by him.
Yeah. Yeah. So Larry, you and I are going to be out. I suspect that we're going to get together as a group of characters here in the exploring the universe during the 7 years that we're going to have to go off and explore. Where do you think we're going to be? I mean, I know we're going to be on this moment, but the moment before this moment, we're going to be out exploring someplace. You got an idea where you'd like to go?
Well, no, I don't, because I don't know the universe that well. But I'll bet you the things that you think you might like to see now, I bet they go way beyond that. And I like the idea of not only seeing it and feeling it, I like the idea of being able, to diminish yourself and go in the physical form and take part in these places. I really like that.
Yeah, you know what I've done recently is I have there's a website called, it's a terrible name, but it's called Earth Porn is the website. And Earth Porn, there's no porn on Earth Porn.
I get it. It's just somebody.
It's pictures by category. And one of the categories, and high-resolution pictures by category, and one of the categories of pictures are pictures taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. And so there's a lot of nebula, which is, lots of color and interesting formations of stars and gases and that sort of thing. I mean, they're just gorgeous, the nebula. I mean, it's the prettiest thing you can ever imagine. And what I've done is I've downloaded these pictures, and then I have a program that enables me to rotate them on my televisions. So, if I'm doing some work, rather than just sitting around, I'm not watching television, but on my televisions, there are these huge, big picture screens. Like right now, I happen to be looking at a television. I'm not rotating the picture, and there's the Shriners golf tournament, and this moron is wearing their fez, their
little
Islamic hat.
Yeah.
And my God, it makes me want to puke. Let's dress up religious. Oh, you piece of worm rot, you. But I've been rotating these pictures of which are a lot more interesting than that piece of crap on Scourge of Humanity of the nebula. And I really want to go there.
Yeah, well, you will. I mean, obviously, you'll be able to do that. But I have a feeling that there's so much. When you're empowered and you have understandings well beyond anything that we have today. We might even be interacting with colors that give us certain feelings.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I mean,
and
who knows?
And music notes, and absolutely. One of the things that's interesting. I just sent an article on this. Scientists have finally realized, which I've realized for a long time. You know, this idea that that life generated with some other solar system and some other galaxy and was sent here in a piece of space debris. First of all, the only way you get space debris is it'd have to be in R1 galaxy. But here's the problem with that. Life is a carbon-based life form, and the only way that you get to the heavy metals, because the universe was created with just initially with just lots of helium, and that helium then hydrogen, lots of hydrogen. And hydrogen became helium in these furnaces within the stars, the fusion of the stars. But hydrogen and helium are really light. You can't create life out of hydrogen and helium. You have to have at least carbon, and then you've got to have even heavier elements to create planets, because there's no way you're going to live in a star. So what they have finally figured out is, this whole idea that you have 16 billion or 15 billion years to create life. Oops. It's only in a solar system that was created after the birth and death of previous stars that you could even have a solar system. You couldn't even have a solar system until you've had the death of stars. So stars that have lived their entire lives and then died, and the explosion of those megastars throughout the material for there to be a solar system, and then only after that solar system cooled could you even have the possibility for life. And what they finally realized is that Earth is as old as you could possibly be to have life in this universe.
Yeah, well, you got another problem. Let's suppose you have a piece of life on a meteor coming in. Well, just
really cold,
for the
okay?
Stupidity.
And really hot as it comes in through the atmosphere, so it's got to
withstand. Yeah, do they have any idea?
Cold and intense hot, yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you ever found a life form that can withstand those two things?
No, it can't happen.
But that because spontaneous generation of life from inorganic materials is mathematically impossible, and because they know it's mathematically impossible, they came up with this. Well, then life came in riding on a meteor, and they don't bother to tell you, well, there are some forms of life that can withstand extreme cold. There are no forms of life that can stand extreme hot. And as you came through the Earth's atmosphere, it would go to a plasma state. It's that hot. But what now they have revealed, and just no one's making the connection, since Earth is as old as a planet can be to conceive life, because it has to have come out of a second generation star. A star has to live its entire life and then die and burn out, and then create and then send out these heavy elements, and then these heavy elements have to gather around a new star, and then they have to all cool and get their act together, all the stuff that, got to clean out where the asteroids are so that it's no longer, so hot and so much upheaval. And so the Earth is as old as it can possibly be to have life, and they know now for certain that there's no way in that nanosecond when the Cambridge explosion took place that life could have come to Earth unless it came to Earth from elsewhere, and now we know that it couldn't have come from elsewhere, because this is as old as a planet can be and have life. They've eliminated all options other than God created.
But it makes for a good sci-fi movie, after all, and that's about the extent of it. It's, the stupidity that revolves around, the desperate attempt to, advance a theory that's, not advanceable. It led to things like the Smithsonian Institute finding a tooth, and, they built Nebraska Man out of it. Now, Nebraska Man had a family, and, they all kind of looked like sort of morons with clubs, and they were clad in animal skin and sitting around a fire. And then, of course, they found later that this tooth came from an extinct pig. Now, they built an entire family out of a tooth.
Oh, yeah. No, of course.
And it's still in.
It takes a lot of faith to be a socialist.
Well, why would you keep the whole operation up and running, your whole wax museum? I mean, you know, wouldn't you take it down at least? I mean,
no, they don't. No, wouldn't you rewrite all of your books now that you found out that it's impossible? Now that you found out that the whole theory behind macroevolution is a lie, and you had to print a retraction in the scientific journals because the Cambrian explosion, and now you see them rewriting and saying,
comes on the scene all at once.
Yeah, we were wrong. No,
because you would have to have
put out material that
species.
This is how it happened, even though they know it didn't happen.
Right? I mean, the worm would have to become a lizard tail or something. You know, you'd have to have all these little different things that we don't. The half cricket, half grasshopper. I'm not sure which one's more advanced, but you know, you'd have to have that. And then why did some idiot stay a worm when they could have moved up the evolutionary scale and become a person? I mean, what are we seeing? The retarded animals that are left over? I mean, it's just really you start looking at it's like clown night. It's like a cartoon out there they put up. And I'm surprised more people don't see it. I mean, I
don't get it either. The moment they figured out that DNA was a language, that they don't see it.
Well, the moment they figure that out, it's game over anyway. I mean, you know, there's never been a language, certainly in a super advanced language, which any scientist would admit. You know, there's never been a language without an author.
Yeah. You think about spontaneously generating DNA. By random chance.
Wow.
Yeah, it'd be like, you know, spontaneously, well, you know, the English language with its 26 letters is child's play because it's a two-dimensional construct. But imagine now letters in a three-dimensional construct, and that rather than just being something on a page that you can read, is something that actually lives, that can make choices, that, you know, exists outside of what you created. I mean, imagine that being spontaneous.
Well, no, I can't imagine it.
And then it having a soul that can observe and respond.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. You know, when people sit around and they can't distinguish between the Sama and Nefesh, I'm sorry for them. They fall into all kinds of nonsense. You know,
I think the problem there is that almost no one translates Nefesh in a rational way. You've got to really work at Nefesh to get it. Yeah, I think it's. My guess is, Larry, that outside of our group, there aren't 5 people on the planet that have translated Nefesh, have even made an attempt.
That is horrible.
Yeah, and or Nesama. You know, that they don't know the difference between Ruach and Nefesh, and they have never taken the time to properly resolve the differences between the Nefesh and Nesama.
Our group is probably the most advanced study group on the planet. I believe that. I don't believe there's anybody close.
I think it's we have more understanding than any other group on the planet, and I think this planet is the only planet with souls that have been invited to be part of Yahweh's family. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have others, but I don't think he does. I think this is it.
Yeah, well, we're a small group, and it's going to be that way. Nobody's going to miss us when we leave, apparently.
No.
They won't even realize what happened, and that's fine.
And I'm not going to miss anything that's here when I leave either. I'm happy to go. Can't wait to go.
Well,
Can't wait to
yeah, I feel the same way. There's not that much left for me to do here. The best thing I can do is share the words. I mean, and so I keep it at that pretty much, you know. Go out to dinner, try to enjoy myself a bit, but I know everything I look at is fraudulent. Every conversation I engage in, if Yahweh isn't brought up and the truth isn't out there, is practically worthless. I mean,
I'm getting more short too. Yeah, just I run out of interest. I'm happy to share it. I enjoy sharing Yahweh's testimony amongst those who are open to it, interested in it, but among those who are not, yeah. And
by the way, that Benjamin piece with your friend, you know, who was doing the movie, because you did shoot that over to me in an email. I was astounded. I mean, I made a note right away, and I put it right along with the note on Mr. Little and Lowly. You know, kind of a double whammy there, you know. And yet, you know, the amount of Christians I've shown that to, which has been about 30 since then, not one of them could grasp either note. I mean, and they're right there. I mean,
knew that this beast had been in her, and this beast that just came out is pure evil, and that it was the plague of death, killed her. Yeah. It also tells you that just like Dode was a flawed individual, so was Jacob.
Well, sure.
Jacob did not listen to his wife who knew, and renamed him. How much better if he had kept that original name. Yeah, I'm the son of evil. Ben Oni, the son of evil. For the
you can't be any more clear. And then they ran to a rabbi, and he lied to him, of course.
Right.
You know, which is what's going to happen.
Well, yeah. Well, my friend, I enjoyed doing this with you. It's always fun.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. It was a great show tonight. Great show. Very, very direct.
So. We're going to have a lot of fun for a long time.
Yeah, we will. Forever, man. Forever.
Yeah, forever.
We're there.
Forever. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, and you have a good night, and, you know,
you too,
enjoy.
You
Thanks.
Too. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.